So, a Minecraft movie is a thing that exists.
I am Steve.
When the first trailer dropped back in September of 2024, a lot of people seem to think that they had standards that we have already repeatedly seen the audiences for these big IP movies simply do not have. The movie looked bad. The live-action designs of the Minecraft characters looked really weird and off-putting. Steve just looked like Jack Black in a blue shirt. Between this, the Mario movies, the Jumanji movies, and that Borderlands movie nobody saw, it seems like he just wants to be the video game movie guy now. The sucked into the game plot seemed really generic and uninteresting. None of the jokes in the trailer were funny. But contrary to the beliefs expressed in many of the initial reactions to the trailer, none of that matters. We've seen it with the Mario movie, we've seen it with the Sonic the Hedgehog movies, we've seen it with the Five Nights at Freddy's movie. They had the names of the games in their titles, they featured all of the corresponding recognizable imagery and terminology. Even if it wasn't always used properly, it was there. And they plugged it into an uninspired and generic, but safe and familiar script, Mad Lib style. It's the cartoon character in the real world story you've seen a million times, except this time it's Sonic, etc. And that's all they had to do. There are some properties that are simply so popular that the bar any film based on them has to clear in order to be a massive success is Subterranean, and Minecraft, the best-selling video game of all time, depending on who you ask, is one of those properties. When the second trailer was released, despite their attempt at a cute meta joke at the beginning, the movie didn't actually look any better. They didn't even redesign the CG characters like they had to for the first Sonic movie. It just showed more. All it took for public perception to shift was people seeing the video game movie guy referencing Minecraft memes and saying the names of a bunch of iconic Minecraft things.
As a child, I yearned for the mines. An ender pearl. Water bucket! The overworld. Flint and steel. The nether. Elytra wingsuits. Chicken jockey!
And predictably enough, despite many initial claims that the opposite would happen, everyone saw it, and it wound up being one of the highest grossing movies of the year. And I'm not some special snowflake who's above the fray of the common masses. I'm the exact same way. I, as a guy who loves Minecraft, saw that the movie was going to have a bunch of iconic Minecraft things in it, and I wound up watching the movie as a result. I certainly wouldn't have seen this shit otherwise, even for a video. And I guess there was some moderate enjoyment to be had in seeing a bunch of things that I recognize and like being portrayed up on the big screen, but in a pretty shallow way, because the movie is so empty of anything to connect with outside of these surface-level references to a game I enjoy. It's not even unwatchably cringeworthy or anything like that. I mean, it's literally like the artistic equivalent of filming a blank wall and pasting a creeper sticker on it. Well, actually, in this instance, that might have more artistic merit, because at least that's being used to say something. It was not impossible to make a Minecraft movie that was good. I don't even believe it would be much of an uphill battle. But as I just alluded to, good movies, or good art in general, typically requires the involvement of someone who actually has something they want to say with the art. And while I don't know the producers, the director, any of the 5 or 6 writers, or anyone else who was involved with the movie personally, based on the quality of the end product, I would have a hard time believing that any of them fit that profile. It feels to me like they, knowing the film was going to be a massive success pretty much no matter what, just switched on the autopilot and did the absolute bare minimum for it to kind of resemble a real movie. For starters, the plot is the most paint-by-numbers isekai fantasy story you could possibly imagine. If it came out that this script had already existed and that Minecraft was just retroactively plugged into it, that would not surprise me in the slightest. Having a simplistic, predictable plot isn't necessarily a problem in and of itself, but it's just one example of how it feels like every single creative decision during the making of this film was made specifically to avoid doing anything even remotely interesting with its premise or its characters. Every time something that resembles a conflict or a dynamic crops up, it's either resolved or just completely dropped within a scene, and it never comes up again. The two best characters are Steve and the main kid. And by best, I very much mean least worst. just because they're the two that the movie comes the closest to doing something with. And in an idealistic alternate universe where this movie was good, it would probably focus mostly, if not entirely, on these two. I guess part of the studio's checklist of things to include to make this resemble a real movie was the appearance that the movie was actually trying to say something, and that came in the form of this exchange towards the end.
Sure you want to go back, Henry? It won't feel like this. There you got constraints, judgments, obstacles.
Yeah, I know. But I'm gonna go make stuff anyway.
I hadn't been enjoying the movie at all up to this point, but this moment made me perk up a little bit. This kid wants to create things, but his peers are keeping him down, and then he stumbles into a world where everything revolves around creating things. He has parallels with Steve, who's miserable and feels like a loser in the real world, but is practically a god in this other world. That sounds like a potentially interesting dynamic that could serve as a hook, and a possible point to be made about creativity. They could do something like the Lego Movie and incorporate the different ways people engage with the product into the plot. Maybe have creative mode be the treasure everyone wants. Steve and the kid want it because it gives you the limitless ability to create, the villain wants it because it gives you the limitless ability to destroy, and then the good guys could choose to reject it at the end because they find creating with no limits to be unfulfilling, or something. I don't know. There's still some holes there, like why are they risking their lives having this whole final battle to save the Minecraft world, only for them to decide at the end that they don't care about this world anyway? Maybe the villain should have been threatening the real world somehow, or maybe the isekai element was unnecessary and the whole movie should have just been set in the Minecraft world, but there was merit to that idea. I wondered what they were gonna do with this. And then I remembered, oh yeah, the movie's over, and I already saw that they didn't do anything with it. Not even in the most banal way like having the main kid use his creative skills to defeat the villain. I guess they kind of pretend that's what they're doing by having the kid draw a bunch of pictures of things while they're preparing for the final battle, but their plan basically boils down to creating an army of iron golems. It's not even like the kid invented them in this canon, we already saw them earlier in the movie. Also, Steve and the kid barely even interact over the course of the story. Most of their banter is instead with a different character, whom I'll get to in a minute. The rest of the main cast are kind of pointless, and mostly only serve to make every scene they're in feel more bloated. They're such an anti-presence that two of them just weren't there for most of the final battle, and I legit didn't even notice they were gone until they joined towards the end. The two women only seem to be there to deliver a bunch of generic, universally applicable reaction lines so they can be dotted randomly in the trailers.
How's he doing that? What?
What am I doing here? What the hell?
You idiot! Run! Oh my god. This place makes no sense.
And out of the main cast, I easily find Jason Momoa's character to be the biggest detriment to the quality of the movie. He's completely redundant, first of all. I have no idea why he's a separate character from Steve. They play the exact same role in the story, from having the same backstory where they're middle-aged losers who are unsatisfied with their lives, to both of them having their own separate secret ulterior motives while teaming up with the main kid. And the joke with him in every single scene is that he does a high-pitched scream. It gets old really fast. He's also supposed to be the group's designated video game expert, so on the surface, it seems like it would make sense to include him in a sucked into the game storyline. Except, again, we already have Steve as the expert on all things to do with the game they were sucked into. Plus the kinds of games that Garrett the Garbage Man Garrison plays are like 1980s arcade beat-em-ups, which is so far removed from the type of game that Minecraft is that it basically never gets incorporated into the plot in any meaningful way. Seriously, why is this character even in the movie at all, let alone given as much screen time as he is? This trait ends up only serving to reference a bunch of iconic imagery and aesthetics from the aforementioned time period. This is a bit of an aside, but when is Hollywood going to let go of the 80s nostalgia stuff? Sorry if I make somebody feel really old by pointing this out, but we're getting to the point in time where even most parents taking their kids to see the movie are probably going to be too young for the 80s references. unless they watched AVGN, I guess. That's the only reason I recognize them. Up to this point, I've mainly been talking about a Minecraft movie as, well, a movie. However, because it makes up far, far more of the cultural conversation surrounding this movie than the actual quality of the film does, I feel like I have to say, I think it kinda sucks as a meme as well. Let me compare it to two other movies that I actually enjoy the memes from. One movie that everyone treated as a total joke, and one movie that I actually really like. First, take Morbius. I enjoyed the memes surrounding that movie and how everyone was ironically praising it. You know why? Well, for one, that movie bombed. Twice. Meaning they weren't able to convert that ironic praise into unironic financial profit. But more than anything else, the reaction people had to Morbius obviously wasn't the reaction the studio wanted or expected people to have. They wanted another Venom, because that movie was a big success. People resonated with the character and the imagery, it spawned 2 sequels, it got canonized by the MCU, and they clearly wanted more of that. Instead, what they got was its biggest cultural impact being a line that wasn't even in the movie, and its box office failure essentially killing any hope Sony had for the future of their shitty knockoff Spider-Man universe. Compare that to a Minecraft movie. I don't know how widespread it is, but I've definitely heard some people express the belief that the enjoyment people had with this film was all ironic, that they liked it in a so bad it's good way. However, I find that a little hard to believe when the movie seemingly got the exact response the studio was hoping for. Again, it made nearly $1 billion, it was successful enough to immediately get a sequel greenlit, and the moments that everyone was memeing were the exact moments that were front and center in the film's marketing before it even came out. And that's another thing as well. I want to compare that chicken jockey meme to something from the Phineas and Ferb movie, Across the Second Dimension, a film that I actually like. Specifically the 2 nickels line.
Wow! If I had a nickel for every time I was doomed by a puppet, I'd have 2 nickels. Which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice, right?
I like that as a meme, not only because it's a funny, applicable line in and of itself that actually means something, but also because, as far as I'm aware at least, there was never some big push by a marketing team to try and make it a thing. People just liked it. When a bit from a movie was clearly designed from the ground up to be the big memeable moment, and it's all over the marketing, and everyone just decides to go along with it, I just don't think there's anything fun about that. To me, it would be like if everyone decided to just go along with that eat spicy goodness like a boss thing from that fast food commercial.
Eat spicy goodness like a boss.
I don't think a Minecraft movie is terrible because any part of it especially repulses me. Even the weird character design and horrendous acting at times, I eventually just got used to. I think it's terrible because of how nothing it is. I obviously wasn't expecting the movie to be anything great, but it'd be like if you bit into what looked like a cheap, shitty store-bought cake. Not much nutritional value, but mildly pleasurable if you're in the right mood for it, only for it to turn out to be a paper-thin shell with nothing on the inside. There are movies that I find more annoying and more incompetent than this one, but that I probably got more out of, just because they actually took an idea and ran with it, even if that idea happened to be bad or poorly executed. For me, a movie has to be really insultingly awful for nothing to genuinely be preferable. I don't even know what they're gonna do for the sequel. Is it just going to be the exact same thing again, except this time with the Ender Dragon or the Herobrine? I have no reason to believe it'll be good, but I am curious how the public will respond to it, and to the marketing especially. Like, when they inevitably try to make another chicken jockey moment for the trailer, are people just gonna go along with it? Again? Will people see that they're really blatantly being pandered to and there'll be some pushback as a result, or will they truly operate like clockwork? Is Jack Black just gonna say the name of another random Minecraft mob, like Silverfish or something, in that weird voice he does, and everyone's going to think it's the funniest thing in the world and throw anchovies at the screen in the theater? Like, I'm writing this as a joke, but part of me feels like it's just going to happen, and I'm not even exaggerating. I guess we'll see in 2027.